welcome to episode 1 of Kosmo Unfiltered. Get ready. This is going to be a wild ride. I'm looking forward to it. We've actually been planning this podcast for a while. We've got a ton of time, a ton of effort into it. So I couldn't be more happy with what we got going. And we even got Wes. Oh, Wes is still here. So.
What's up?
Hey, Wes.
Still here. You act like I'm a pest problem.
Well,
we still got rats, but
we sprayed for them, but they keep coming back.
they're still here. I thought we got rid of them.
Well, no, he's still around. He's still around. So if this is your first time, which it probably is since it's episode 1, although it could be your second time.
Well, this is our first time.
This is our second time because we did episode 0.
Don't tell them about behind the scenes, man.
Oh, well, that's
secret stuff.
That's what they're here for. But, hey, man, if you would, do us a huge favor here. Like you heard in the intro, we're not going to charge you. We don't run ads. So if you like this, all I ask is share it with somebody. Get the word out. Show some love, man. Help a brother out.
Man, I remember, how long have I known you now?
Oh, my gosh. 7, 8 years?
Oh, yeah.
It's been 7, 8 years.
It has. What was it 2013?
I don't know.
I met you. You had just started the food truck is when I met you.
Yeah.
Most people know that story. So we got two groups here. We got the Cosmoites that know us and spent some time cooking with us, and then we got this new thing where we're letting people in to the shop talk, the entrepreneurial,
the behind the scenes, the how we make it work. Because there's and here's the funny. Most everybody knows the barbecue side of me.
Yeah.
They know the fun side. They don't know the business side.
It's true.
At all.
Yeah. And even the story, kind of the behind the music.
Yeah. The behind
the music.
Dun, dun, dun.
His radio voice. We shouldn't have given him that microphone.
I think to tell the story, we got to start at the beginning.
We got to start at the beginning. I had known you a while before I knew the real story. So that's the first episode. It's tell everybody the real story.
The real story.
Yep.
Well, let's start.
Take it away.
Everybody knows that's watched my videos knows that I'm burned. They see my legs, so
every now and then there's a comment.
Every now and there's a comment.
Some assholes like, hey, why you leaving? And then we gotta then we ruin their whole world, and we're like, I was burned when I was a child.
I was burned when I was a child, dickhead. You know.
So
thanks for that, man.
If you've ever seen footage on the channel and you didn't ask the question,
actually, I was burned when I was 17 months old. I was burned in the bathtub, believe it or not. It was a crazy accident. My mother was giving me a bath, and back then the house phone was usually in the kitchen, and the phone rang, so she turned the water off to the bath, and my 3-year-old sister at the time came in and was going to help rinse me off and turned on the hot water and rinsed me off. And I got burned all down my back, my butt, back of my legs, and obviously my lower legs and my feet. So I spent the majority of my life growing up in the Shriners Burn Institute in Galveston, Texas. So I kind of like to say I hold dual citizenship. I'm from Oklahoma and I am from Texas. And now somebody is going to try to make the argument, well, you wasn't born here, some bitch. And I'm like, that's true. I wasn't born there, but I damn sure was raised there. I went to school there. I rolled my first cigarette. Down, no, I'm kidding.
Grew my first chest hair.
Yeah. So that happened. I was burned at a very young age, and it sucked growing up because you seen the Forrest Gump. Remember when he was running in those braces?
Yeah, at the beginning.
Yeah, I've wore those. Several times. I've had to learn how to walk. I can't even tell you how many times. Man. It sucks, but I think God puts us in situations to grow, stretch, and expand us. And, hindsight, it definitely has done that for me.
Sure.
So
I've always thought it was ironic that you were burned at a young age and you spend your career playing with fire all day. Just the irony of that.
Yeah.
It's a cool story, I think. I've always felt that way.
Yeah.
So you talk about being in the hospital when'd you get out? How old were you? 13?
Well, I pretty much lived in there till I was probably 7 years old.
Man, so what's a defining moment in your time at the hospital? I mean, you're almost 50 now. What sticks out to you?
I was asked to speak at a conference once, and I remember telling this story, and I'll try to tell it now. But this is the part that changed my life. I was probably 10 years old, and I remember waking up from surgery, and I was tied to the bed. My arms were tied to the bed, and my feet were tied to the bed. And man, I had to go to the bathroom bad. And there was no button. Even if there was, I was tied to the bed. So.
And you were old enough to like say it at this point.
Yeah. I'm screaming. At this point, I'm screaming, nurse, nurse, because I gotta go to the bathroom, and no one came. And I would just remember that I ended up just pissing the bed, and I remember laying there, 10 years old, tied to that bed, in a puddle of piss, and I was just like, God, just let me die, just let me die.
Kind of giving up.
Like the pain was just too much for a 10-year-old, and obviously I've been dealing with it at this point for 8 years roughly, and I was just like, what did I do to deserve this, man? What did I do? And I was just like, God, will you let me die? And like I heard it clear as day, and I can't understand it, and I don't, people say whatever, but I heard him say, because I'm not done with you. And I didn't understand it until the next day. And the next day they brought in, she didn't even look like a human. She was burned 100% of her body. I don't know if there is a 4th or 5th degree. I don't think there is. I think it's 3rd degree. But you couldn't even tell she was a human.
Wow.
And I just remember looking at her and thinking where I was the night before and how I was, and I was like, that did something in my brain, and it rewired my brain to understand that no matter how bad you think you have it, and in your now, you may have it bad, but there is always somebody that has it far worse than you.
Sure.
And when I saw her, and they showed me a picture of her, she was beautiful. She was 13 years old.
Wow.
I'll never forget. She was 13 years, gorgeous. And I thought, how is she going to live the rest of her life?
Man. You're a different person after that. You're not the same.
Yeah, that, I don't know if that's PTSD or what's going on or what happened, but I just remembered, quit complaining about where you're at, because it's only there to make you better. And it definitely did for me, and I hope it did for that young lady too. I don't know what happened to her after that. I never saw her again.
So it sounds like that was a takeaway for you.
Yeah, that was a huge takeaway. You
took that through the rest of life. So, I mean, is there another one? 2 more? One, I mean, what is it?
I'll be honest with you. In my younger age, I had a lot of adversity. But I still always held on to that. Like I did a lot of things that I shouldn't have been doing, drinking and, drugs and, running the streets and all that. And I always remembered, no matter how bad you think you got it, somebody has it far worse than you. But it was later in life, because I was told my whole life, like, sit down, shut up, be quiet. You can't do that. You're never going to amount to anything. You can't do anything right. And all these things. And I remember, like, I lived my life with that. I lived my life with the beliefs that people put in my head. I didn't put them there.
Sure.
People put these beliefs in your head, and just you start believing them once you start hearing them enough over and over and over again. And ironically, you know this as well as I do, hurt people. And I was hurt. And then I just started going through life hurting people, not physically, although that did happen sometimes, but that was the realness of it.
So you learned what a limiting belief was.
A limiting belief, yeah.
It took you time to understand that you're not bound to that.
You're not bound to that. You are not bound to the thoughts that you generate or that are generated for you.
Yeah. Or be careful of the thoughts you take ownership of.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true.
Because if you had believed everything that was said about you, we probably wouldn't be here right now.
Oh no,
Yeah.
no! If I believed everything that was said about me, and it was real hard. You knew me later in life. After I met my wife was a huge part of me taking responsibility for myself, taking ownership of my actions, and not only being responsible for myself, but being also responsible for. By this time, we had a family. So
Sure, but before that, I mean, you alluded to it a little bit. Things are getting pretty rough. You're out of the hospital. You're kind of sowing your wild oats a little bit.
Yeah.
Is
that what we call it?
Yeah. So, well, we call it Relimpico Blanco. Is what we call it. That's right. Lightning. We don't have a lightning button. We need to get one.
Yeah, we do. We need a lightning button.
Notes for episode 2.
So by the time I meet Jamie, I have at least been on the path to straightening up. I remember I said I'm not going to date anybody until I learn to love myself. And I know that's, guys don't say things like that. But honestly, I had never felt love. I met Jamie, and we went on our little merry way. At the time, I was working for a gaming, I'll call it a gaming company.
They were LLC.
Yeah, LLC. Yeah. And then after I met Jamie, I thought, okay, I need to get a real job. So I went to work for a Hasways company, and I was a route driver. And that's kind of what slowed me down. And that's when I was like, okay, well, I'm not going out and partying anymore. So anybody that knows me knows I can't sit still. I can't sit at home or whatever. So I was like, I'll start barbecuing. And that did not go well the first time, but it sparked a fire in me.
Sure, it just bounced all over that resolve, that determination, that I'm gonna do this.
Yeah. As my wife held the trash can open, and I was throwing all the food away that I tried to cook, I was just like, man, I'm not going to take an L on this, and it won't happen again. And it never. I'm not gonna say it never. I'm not gonna say I didn't throw food away.
It got better.
It got way better.
You didn't throw as much away.
It got way better after that. So I didn't throw near as much away.
The finish line is, well, we don't have leftovers anymore because it's that good.
Yep.
We eat it all in one sitting.
Yep.
So when I met you, you were still hauling has waste, but the barbecue thing had kind of grown, and it was a problem. You were throwing some weight around. You had a truck. You had a competition team. You had products then.
Yep.
I mean, I'm a part of the Yellow Koozie Club. I had a Yellow Koozie.
The yellow one? Oh, my gosh.
Anybody that's bought
old.
from
I was drinking out of that
Kosmos.
yesterday, man.
The Yellow Koozie Club. There's only a few of us out there.
Or the baby blue.
The baby.
The baby blue.
That came after that. There's a few
It
more
did.
baby blues.
It did come after that.
But I was a part of the Yellow Koozie Club for a while there. And Kosmos was the thing. You're still driving has waste, but you're not happy.
No. As a matter of fact, I had a great job, but I absolutely freaking hated it.
Well, what does great mean?
Well, it paid the bills.
Sure.
It paid the bills, and I didn't have to work weekends, so I could barbecue on the weekend, but I absolutely hated it. I mean, I could Sunday evening, I would just feel sick to my stomach. And if you've ever had that feeling, I remember driving home one day, and I was just like, I was like, I can't do this, but I don't know what I want to do. And then it just hit me driving home. I was like, well, what do you value? So I immediately went home and I printed a list. It was probably 100 words of things you could value. I said, okay, I'm going to circle 25. So I did 25, then 20, then 15, then 10, then 5. And then I said, okay, if I had to live my life by 3 values, what would it be? And
Sex, drugs, rock and roll.
Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And I narrowed it down to finances, family, and freedom. Now, you'll hear me say quite a bit that money's not the goal. Money is important, but money's not the goal. When I say finances in the realm of I don't want to hurt for things.
Sure.
I don't need everything, but it's nice to be comfortable and to know that I'm going to leave an inheritance to my wife and my kids, So when I talk about finances, that's what I'm talking about. So I went home, and when I landed on them 3 and I told my wife, I said, I think I need to quit my job. And she looked at me and she goes, yeah, I'm surprised it's taking you this long.
Yeah.
But I always told myself, I'll quit my job when I work till midnight 7 days in a row. And by then I had already done it. And I was still a little too scared to quit my job. But I went in and quit my job.
Boom.
And I was like, let's do this. And that's when I started the barbecue truck. And I went into some pretty good debt on it. But I also used it as a competition trailer. And I quickly paid it off. Because anybody knows me that knows that I'm not a fan of debt.
Oh, no.
I'm not a fan of owing anybody anything. But I paid it off. Well, I ran it for a year. And then that first year, the funny thing is I was ranked top 3 food trucks in America. I was number 2. I did that in 1 year. And, man, we were traveling all over and going places for lunch, Oklahoma City, H&H, and all the things. But there was one in Edmond they would never let me come into. What's that one? They still do it.
Is it Herd on Herd?
Herd on Herd.
Yeah.
They never, Herd on Herd would never let me. They said, well, you got to take a number. And I'm like, hey, man, I'm like top 2 food trucks in the country.
I did. Top 5.
Yeah. And no, they're like, so what? But I remember coming home, and I'm big on data. You know, you can have feelings, you can have thoughts, but
numbers don't lie.
Numbers don't lie. Let's look at the data. And I remember I went through the whole year, and the barbecue truck, it absorbed about 80% of my time, but it didn't even make up 20% of the revenue.
Dang.
And I thought, wow, imagine what I could do with 80% more time with Kosmos.
Well,
I called then at the time, Carson that worked for me. I said, hey, what are you doing? I said, you want to come to work this afternoon? He's like, not really. And me and Carson drug that food truck all over the country. And I said, hey, I think I'm going to sell the food truck. You want to come help me clean it out? And he goes, I'll be there in 5 minutes. And
he hated it too.
Oh, we both hated it.
Y'all took it out like it was the trash in the kitchen.
Man,
it was
and
done.
we were done, and I had that thing up for sale and sold within 3 weeks.
Gone. Just a bad dream.
Yep. And then that's when you and I, our paths crossed again.
Yep, they did. So by the time I met you, you had products. And when the truck was running, you had products. But the origin story there is pretty funny because that was really the beginning.
Yeah. No, I had to recall my days as a pharmaceutical sales rep in my hometown.
If you don't know what that means, just ask a friend.
I remember when I went to my very first competition. So for those that don't know the whole story, I've told this story 100 times. The reason why I got in business is because how I was treated one time, and that just lit a fire in me. And I thought, well, I'll just do my own then. And by this time, I was already making my own rubs, and people would ask to buy my rubs, or so I would, somebody in Louisiana, so I'd ship them 5 pounds or something like that. But I started making my own brisket injection, and I remember I went to my first comp, and nobody there would talk to me other than Stu, Donnie, and Scott. Stu and Scott came in late, so I didn't talk to them very much. But Donnie Teal was the only person that would talk to me. So I was like, okay, man. So I went out and took little baggies of injection, and I passed them. I just gave them away for free. And there was one guy there that dumped it on the ground. Not in front of me, but I heard that he dumped it on the ground. And everybody was just upset with me because how dare I come out with an injection, But that's what I did. And I thought, well, okay, I'll sell my own. I built my own website. I didn't know how to build websites. I learned how to build websites. That's how it all got started.
Back in the day.
What
year was that? What would you say? 20?
That was, I incorporated in 2009. So that was 2006. 2006 is when I started competing. I'm almost sure it was 2006. Could have been 2004, but it could have been 2006. I don't know. Anybody that knows me, dates and times, they just get lost in my head. But in 2009 is when we did incorporate, and that's when Kosmos officially became a company. And the funny story is people go, how'd you land on the name Kosmos? And I was like, well, the company that I wanted to do business with asked me, they said, well, sir, do you have a company? And I said, sure. I didn't have a company. I didn't have anything. And they said, well, what's the name of it? And I said, Kosmos Q, because that was the name of my barbecue team. And that's how it got named.
That's how it started.
Yeah. So funny story. I know you heard this, Wes, but this is for everybody out there. My wife was a school teacher at the time, and my daughter, all three of my kids went there, but Dessa went to school there. She's my biological daughter, and Dessa was in the 2nd grade, I believe.
She's little.
She was a little bitty.
She's a little kid.
And it was show and tell on what your parents do, where they draw the picture.
Oh,
You seen
career
that?
day.
Yeah. So Jamie got a call from the principals, and she's like, "Hey, my wife's a school teacher there." And the principal calls her and says, "Hey, I need you to come down to the office. I got Dessa down here." And she's like, "Oh my gosh, what would Dessa?" Dessa was,
She's a good kid.
a princess. I mean, she said, "Well, Dessa's not in trouble." She said, "But Dessa told her a story to her class that you may get asked about later." And she was like, "What's that?" She said, "Well, Dessa said that your husband sits in the garage and bags up powder and ships it to his friends around the country." Which wasn't wrong. That's what I did do.
It just sounds a little bit like drug trafficking.
It sounds a little bit like drug trafficking. So they thought I was shipping out cocaine when I was actually shipping out brisket injection.
Jamie said, "Oh no, he doesn't do that anymore."
No. Oh yeah, that's funny. That was a good story, man. I like that. Now this podcast isn't about barbecue, but we are going to talk about barbecue sometimes. And if you're okay with that, I'm okay with that. We're going to have a lot of fun. This podcast is going to be about inviting you behind the scenes to what really goes on in my head.
Buckle up.
Buckle up for that shit.
Yeah.
Buckle up for that shit.
Oh, man.
Now, who's this podcast for? I say if you want to get better in life, if you want to grow, if you want to stretch yourself, and you don't mind hearing about a little barbecue every now and again, then this show is going to be for you. We're going to talk beer, whiskey, barbecue, work, business, how to grow, the whole shooting match. Now, this podcast ain't going to be for everybody. So if it's not for you, hey, no harm, no foul. Don't worry about it. So, hey, thank you all for watching or listening wherever you find us at. Don't forget, hey, this podcast is free, but I do ask that you please share it with somebody on social media. So join us for episode 2, where we talk about launching products, crappy jobs, and my food truck. I'll catch you later. Peace.